Welcome to the shooting show. This week we're in Ireland on a Sika stag special. It's a Sika double, plus Matt Manning takes us out rabbit hunting and shows us why he's the Gordon Ramsay of the airgun world.
I'm Jason Doyle, stalker for John Fenton here in Wicklow. We left the car about 7:20 this morning. Had a plan to head into the valley behind us. Some good stags rutting there. Just around the corner where we can see.
I've made the trip across the Irish Sea to the Emerald Isle for a new sporting experience. A hill stalk for a Sika stag. The early morning sun casts long shadows and slowly reveals the impressive landscape. There's no better time to be out than this, but we've got no time to stop and admire the scenery. The hunt is on.
We got stuck into deer quite early on. Had a couple of stalks and some stags, and it didn't work out just with the wind, sun in our face. It makes it difficult. There's a dense population of Sika on this estate, and it makes it hard. You see animals and you try to stalk them, and you end up invariably coming across more animals. You try and cut the wind, and animals 500-600 metres from you downwind will catch your scent, and they'll usually run into the wind, cut across in front of you and collect the animals you're trying to stalk. Makes it difficult. We have to be aware all the time of what's going on above and behind us.
It's a good stag just in the back.
We're watching animals we're trying to stalk, but you have to look around you all the time for other animals to make sure you don't spook them. They're a very alert deer. You get the older hinds, there's always one watching, and they'll watch you for a long time. If they think they've seen something, you just have to sit tight 15-20 minutes. They'll stay watching you.
185, 184. But you was wrenching its ass. I know where you Englishmen like to shoot.
And they've very good eyesight, much better eyesight than roe deer. These guys will see you 500-600 metres, no problem, especially if you come over a skyline. They'll see your silhouette, and they won't hang around.
One squashed banana. That'll do the gecko ammo a lot of good.
Had a plan to skirt across the edge of this ground, heading into the wind, but saw a group of hinds and a decent stag. Wind wasn't perfect and the sun was in our face, which isn't ideal. Sun flashing off the binoculars and you've big long shadows behind you. But got to 145 odd metres of the target stag, but whether a little puff of wind or they just saw a little bit too much of us. Just getting to a shooting position, they decided enough was enough and they've headed on. Going to head uphill now into the wind. A lot of deer ahead of us still. Stags are rutting like mad, so we should come across something fairly quick.
Our first approaches have come to nothing, but that's no reason to be discouraged. These are some of the best Sika grounds in Europe. We've spotted big numbers of the beasts already. Things still look promising, if only we could manage to dodge the hinds and get into a shootable stag.
Plan B, part 4.
There was a stag whistling away up on the top, a satellite stag, and there was a stag holding hinds, and they were whistling away at each other, and we basically tried to get in between the two and cut the satellite stag off. So it was a long crawl in and uphill and down dale and through gutter and through bog, hands and knees, exciting stuff.
There'll be more deer between us and them. So we're just going very quietly. There's no see a bit more. Okay.
Crawling in is always difficult when you're following the guide, because you don't want the muzzle of the rifle pointing up his jacksie. So you've always got to be aware of the muzzle. And in the longish heather and the bogs, the added concern is not getting any debris in the end of the muzzle. So when you're crawling in, it's you've got your mind in three places really, as well as keeping up with the guide. We got into a position that was a good one to shoot from, although there was a hind watching us. So we snookered from that point and had to wait for the stag to come in. And fortunately he did, it was a tense time. Because of the long heather, actually getting a shot through the heather was quite difficult. But the sitting shooting sticks, the quad sticks, were great. It did allow you to get a good solid rest. But there was that chance when you actually sat up, you had to do it very slow and curl around the sticks, because the stag was actually looking straight at us. So I was a little bit nervous in case he clocked us, and phew, but you know, fortunately, I was more interested in the other stag that was calling. You all right with that, James?
I'm okay.
Yeah, if you want to shoot him, Pete. That was fantastic.
Bit of a standoff.
Mexican standoff.
Not a fantastic stag, but a nice hill animal. Well done, good shot.
Thank you very much.
Your first hill stag.
Yeah, first Irish hill seeker. Fantastic,
Good.
brilliant. And it's my kind of hunting, this, on the hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice. Spot
Yeah.
and stalk.
Yeah, spot on.
It's not easy today. The sun is against us and wind isn't great, but it's a beautiful day to be out.
Yeah.
Better than rain.
And the heather, with it not being burnt heather, and you know, there's pitfalls. I've never seen such a rough hill underfoot. You just
Yeah.
don't know. You know, you've got to watch your feet.
Jake. This part isn't bad. This is quite an easy walk.
A successful open hill stalk in Ireland. There's another one ticked off the hunting bucket list for me. Now it's time to inspect the beast. It's clear he's been a real scrapper.
Well, thank you very much, Jason.
You're welcome.
Brilliant.
It's not the biggest stag in trophy terms, but it's a good representative animal and certainly a shooter. And that's enough to make me a happy hunter. Next up, Jason takes us through an expertly performed gralloch and retrieves the perfectly mushroomed gecko bullet.
Perfect mushroom.
They're challenging deer to stalk, but a lot of fun. And they're easier than reds to pack out as well. We're quite lucky to have them on this estate. We're not allowed any motorised vehicles, quads or hill cats on the estate. So all animals have to be either dragged or rucksacked off. We've an uphill hike back to the car, so I'm going to stick this stag on the rucksack and carry him out.
This is an estate steeped in history, and the rules to preserve this historic ground are strict. No vehicles are allowed, so this will be a pack-out American style. There's nothing like heading off the hill with 40 kilos of stag on your back, and to share the burden, we'll be taking it in turns to lug the beast out. Jason volunteers to go first. Before long, it's my turn to take the weight for the second half of the distance. It's character building stuff, and I carry the stag without complaint.
What's it like? Heavy. Yeah, first Irish Sika, and on the hill too. Jason's a fellow mountain man, so I actually like being on the hill. And it was fantastic to be out there, sun coming out and the stags whistling away. But yeah, it all came together, and good shot saved the day, really.
The evening soon comes around, and we're aiming for a repeat performance of the first stalk. This time we head to a different location. Working our way up through the spruce plantation, it isn't long before we're stalking along the forest edge. Blessed with good weather once more, we quickly come across a wallow site which gets our hopes up. But the beasts themselves are yet to show. After this morning when we bumped a herd of deer early on, things seem eerily quiet now. We hear them before we see them. First, a warning whistle from a hind. Then, the telltale whistling of a stag clues us into the location of a possible beast. It turns out we've stalked in close, and from here it's just a short distance to a suitable shooting location. We can't waste this opportunity that has come out of nowhere, so as quickly as possible Jason directs me into a sitting position for the shot.
Went for here. I think it might have been a little bit low. It's freehand.
Yeah, it was a tough shot.
As we reach the stag, my initial fears are allayed. It went down on the spot.
Thank you.
Well done.
Been wallowing.
Yeah, it's been wallowing strong. We've passed a couple of wallows on the hill and one just 10 yards above him. I expect he has another one down here where he came from. Here's your
Shot.
that's where you hit him. Perfect. No trouble finding him.
2 stalks, 2 perfectly shot stags. You can't wish for more than that.
Well, Jason, the end of a very, very productive day.
Yeah, we were lucky this evening. It's still a couple of hours before dark, but we were sneaking into position to wait for some hinds to come out and hopefully a stag. And the stag came out early. There was a couple of hinds out that we spooked coming into position. Some hinds out on the hill behind us. And we just sat tight. We saw a hind on this clearing and she just headed into the trees, and within 5 minutes this guy came out to one of his wallows and managed to have a perfect neck shot, 98 metres, and another nice 8-pointer. He's been in the wars as well, same as the one this morning, but another nice stag and good first day on Irish Sika stags.
Absolutely. This morning on the hill and then today on the edge of the forestry.
Yep.
Yeah, so we've tried both methods and both have worked.
Yeah, it's a good time now. They're in the middle of the rut. The stags are quite silly at the moment, and we've been lucky. There's no point saying otherwise. We have been very lucky.
Yeah.
They're not massive stags, but they're 2 nice 8-pointers.
Yeah, he's carrying a bit more weight, this one.
Yeah, he's only fresh into the rut. I'd say his neck is still very swollen.
Yeah.
He hasn't been fighting as much as the other guy, and as you say, he's heavier. Different areas, the different stags start rutting at different times.
I have to say, hunting Sika has got to rank in the UK species and the Irish species, of course, for me as almost as exciting as roebuck hunting. It's up there with roe for me, and roe my favourite.
Good.
So yeah, it's been a fantastic experience, and thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and we hope to see you in the winter for some Sika hinds.
Don't worry about that, I'll be here.
And the best thing of all, the terrain is suitable for a double drag, uphill, back to the vehicle. Sika stalking is both exciting and rewarding, plus it certainly keeps you in good shape.
Jason Doyle there, proving he's the Sika #1 in Ireland. And now, the Shooting Show News.
This is the Shooting Show News. UK politicians and shooting organisations have lined up against the EU's attempt to impose further firearms restrictions. The European Commission has proposed to rewrite the EU Firearms Directive, adding strict rules on the legal trade and possession of guns. The All-Party Group for Shooting and Conservation has written to the Home Secretary, asking her to make representations against the new directive. Group Chairman Geoffrey Clifton Brown has said the proposals were an appalling way to legislate and that they should be quietly dropped. Charlotte Kerwood has taken top trap honours at the ISSF World Cup final in Abu Dhabi. The Brit, who had made the 8th qualifying spot by virtue of her near world record performance in Al Ain earlier this year, came 5th in qualification with a score of 68. She smashed 14 out of 15 clays in the semi-final, then beat Germany's Jana Beckmann by a single clay to take the gold. More in the next issue of Clay Shooting. Shooters are close to winning the debate over the use of lead shot, the Countryside Alliance has said. At a seminar for the shooting industry in the West Country, the Alliance's Tim Bonner insisted that shooters must continue to comply with the laws on lead shot. He said there was no argument on health or environmental grounds for any further restrictions on lead shot, and the Anti's only remaining argument was insufficient compliance with current laws. The second badger cull extension has been granted, meaning culling will continue for another 8 weeks in Gloucestershire. Figures show that 708 badgers were culled during the original period, just under half the quota. The cull will now continue until the 18th of December. More badger news in the new issue of Sporting Rifle, out this week. And finally, there's renewed pressure to ease the hunting ban, or at least one aspect of it. Farmers are pressing Environment Secretary Owen Paterson to remove the ban on using more than 2 dogs to flush a fox to guns, after new figures indicated that a full pack of hounds would be almost twice as effective and result in greater animal welfare. This would be expected to require a parliamentary vote, but not a new bill. That was the Shooting Show news.
I'm Matt Manning. We're out on the farm, hopefully going to bag 1 or 2 rabbits for the pot. It's a mixed holding. The rabbit population spiralled over the summer and they're gobbling their way through the pasture, which is obviously aggravating the farmer. I'm using a Daystate MK4 air rifle. This one is FAC rated, 22 caliber. This one's producing just under 30 foot-pounds. People frequently ask me, you've gone over to FAC, have you lost faith in legal limit airguns? Not at all. In all honesty, this one doesn't buy me much more range. It gives me a little bit more knockdown power, and the big advantage is I get quite a flat shooting 2.2. At legal limit, I prefer the flat trajectory of 177, but there's obviously a compromise on knockdown power. By going FAC, I'm just getting that flat shooting, hard hitting 2.2, which should be perfect for the rabbits here this evening. Now the Daystate's a very accurate pre-charged air gun. It's recoilless, which makes it, or virtually recoilless, which makes it very smooth shooting. On top of that, it's got the electronic firing cycle and electronic trigger. Some firearms rated air rifles get a bit snappy. They're working a bit harder than usual, and that results in a compromise in the smoothness of their shooting. The electronics of the Daystate pretty much irons that out, makes for a very accurate air gun. And to further exploit that accuracy today, I'll fit a bipod, so we're shooting very low, very steady. Snaps into the stud on the stock. And we're ready to go. This is a Harris bipod. It's a low model, just 6 to 9 inches, keeps it very steady, flat to the ground. It's got extendable legs, which are really handy, and it also swivels. So if you need to make minor adjustments, you've always got your vertical crosshair dead upright, no canting of the gun. When shooting with a bipod, obviously what would usually be your leading hand is redundant because the weight of the gun is supported. But it still has a really useful role to play. Put it underneath the butt of the gun. Obviously the fore end is fixed, that's in a fixed point. But by bulging and rolling the fist at the back here, you can make tiny adjustments to the aim just by shifting the butt left, right, up and down. And it's a great way just to refine your aim when you're using a bipod. Okay, so we've got a nice tight 3-shot group there, comfortably in the kill area, fractionally high, which I would expect at 30 metres as the gun zeroed at 40. Just what we want for the rabbiting later on. That's a great group. Still quite early in the day. I probably wouldn't expect the rabbits to start venturing out in numbers yet, and we haven't seen any, but there's a good sign here. There's a lot of droppings, and although they're not quite as dark and fresh as I'd like, it's a good sign to start on. This is an area that we'll target, we'll set up, see if anything ventures out. Looking at the hedge, this gives us a nice safe angle. I'm about 25 metres away from the nearest point. Quite a wide arc of fire either direction, bearing in mind that I don't really want to be shooting at much more than about 40-45 metres. We've got quite a stiff breeze whipping across from right to left. I'm shooting downhill, which keeps the shot safe, and there's a hedge bank as well, so it's a nice safe place to set up and ambush the rabbits, which will hopefully venture out in a moment. Great thing about shooting from a fixed position like this is that you can predetermine ranges along the area you're targeting, so you can work out the correct holdover or hold under to give shots depending on where your quarry ventures out. You can do that either by pacing out the distance from fixed points along the hedgerow back to where you're shooting. Obviously, doing that when you're planning to shoot causes disturbance and would spook the rabbits. Works perfectly well if you do it a day before you're planning to shoot, a day or two before. Alternatively, much more quickly, much less disturbance, a few pings with the rangefinder. All I'm going to do is range to a few fixed points. There are stakes, posts along the hedgerow, so I know when rabbits venture out close to those markers, I've got a fairly good idea how far away they are. Given this spot about 45 minutes, the rabbits aren't cooperating, we haven't seen any, so I'm going to move on, have a look round, hopefully find somewhere a bit more productive where we can bag ourselves a bunny. Right, well that was a great piece of luck. We were just shifting positions. As we moved over the brow, there was actually a rabbit out feeding. Dumped the backpack, decided to stalk it. I knew I had a safe backstop, got the hedgerow there, big hedge bank in and amongst there, so the shot was safe. All I had to do was get within range. Breeze is pushing across here and it's buffeting into that hedge, which was very useful for me. I think it was probably making quite a lot of noise in there, which was masking the sound of my approach as I crept along the hillside there. As I got close, the rabbit was still absolutely oblivious to my presence. It was still feeding, it was grooming itself. So I managed to get quite close. I was about 25 metres from that one when I took the shot, which off the bipod was a banker. Nice clean kill. Rabbit struck square between the eye and ear. Well, this one's destined for the pot, so we'll paunch the whole tally later on, assuming we get some more. But the first thing I want to do is just empty its bladder so that there's no chance of that tainting the meat. We've been having a bit of a walk round. We've seen a few rabbits moving along this bank. Typically we couldn't stalk within range, but hopefully we can set up here, bag one or two. Again, it's a nice safe spot. Once they're out away from the hedgerow, I've got a nice backstop along the bank. Sun's just disappeared behind the clouds, but hopefully it'll come back out soon and coax out a few rabbits to enjoy a few evening rays before it gets dark.
Okay, that one's done cleanly. We'll leave it there in case anything else ventures out.
Well, that went well. We've ended up with 3 nice clean rabbits. Not a sign of mixy, which is always good. A couple will go in the freezer, and we will turn one into a stir fry with a few simple ingredients. So we've got our rabbit, we're going to turn it into a tasty stir fry. It frustrates me that a lot of shooters seem to shoot more quarry than they want to eat, and they're often looking for people to give it away to. There's really no excuse for not cooking it yourself. This is a really simple recipe. It's all done in the wok. If you can fry an egg, you should be able to make a stir fry. I've already prepared the rabbit. I've basically cut the best pieces of meat from the rabbit into quite small pieces. A lot of rabbit recipes, you cook the meat slow, you cook it long to tenderise it. If you get a bigger, tougher rabbit, cooking it fast in a stir fry, it can be a bit stringy. So these small bite-sized pieces should be absolutely fine, however old our rabbit is. The first thing I want to do is get our rice on. That's actually the longest part of the process. So I've got the water boiling. We'll measure out our rice. Airgun Shooter mug, best vessel for measuring out rice. I'm going to make enough for two, so I'm going to put about a mug and a half of rice in here. One. Okay, the oil's hot and the rabbit's just gone in. A lot of recipes you put the onions in first and soften those. With this particular stir fry, I like to get the rabbit in first, so the rabbit's nicely browned. Put the onion in a little bit later, and it's nice and crunchy when you serve it. So you can literally prep the vegetables as you go with this while the stir fry's ticking over. That's about as fine as you want to cut the onion. I like to keep it quite chunky. So the rabbit and the onion are ticking over nicely, so I'm just going to cut the peppers, and as with the onion, nothing too fine or chefy. I just want them fairly coarse and fairly crunchy. Last of the vegetables to go in is the mushroom, and as with the rest, no need to be too fine or fancy with it. They can go in there pretty coarse. The great thing about this is you really can't overcook it. Unless it catches on the pan, keep it moving. You can't really burn it, and as long as the meat's cooked through and your vegetables are hot, you can't undercook it either. Okay, so the last thing to go in there was the sauce. That's the tricky part of the recipe. All of the complicated work, all of the hard work in the sauce, already done for you. Keeps it lovely and simple. Last thing to do is to just heat that through. Okay, the stir fry's done. Just test the rice. Perfect. So the rabbit's done, rice is ready. We'll just drain the rice off and that will be ready to serve. So that's it, that's our stir-fried rabbit done, ready to go. Real student food, dead easy, absolutely no excuse for not giving it a go. What we've done is made a recipe. You would usually use chicken for it. We've replaced that with rabbit. You could also use wood pigeon. Looks and smells absolutely delicious. I can't wait to give it a try.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. We're out every Monday, 7:30 PM UK time. This is The Shooting Show.